So there's a lot of levels to checking ourselves, and then we have to report it, and we have mandatory reporting.
And has the budget for the training to keep us up to speed been adequate for you?
We have to get creative. A lot of it gets done on duty because we just don't have any other option. We've got a lot of online training that we're doing now that we didn't do before, trying to save money on that. So adequate. We're making sure everybody has their minimum training, their 40-hour training, and we'll try to get some extra stuff in there when we can afford it with officer power and everything else,
Chief,
Given the state of affairs in the country right now, if you feel like you need more money for more training or to enhance, please give us a budget and we'll recommend it to the mayor, because I don't think I don't want to see us be in a situation where, and I know money's tight for all departments, but this is a real sensitive area of going on now in the country with police departments throughout not only our country, other countries. And I just want to make sure we have an adequate amount of funding and folks are getting all the training that they should be getting, and even more creative if you needed to be, if you don't have a budget for it, or you're struggling and stealing from Peter to pay Paul. I'd rather see a line item budget for the training that's necessary.
Well, certainly,
I'd rather see a budget that really isolates the training and what it costs, and that we're on top of it.
If we want to do all the training that's being recommended and kind of demanded and asked of us, it's going to cost a whole lot more than what we have now in there. I can tell you that. The types of trainings that we're being asked to look into and that folks want to see, these aren't 4-hour blocks. These are week-long trainings, and these are sending people away and paying for them to stay places and backfill to make sure they get it. These aren't trainings that you can just find next door. So, which is fine. We're willing to, to train as we want to train more. I mean, I think that's something we've tried to do more of. Since I got here, we try to put people in. We try to ask people to look for things that they're interested in, that they can get more skilled at. We try to, try to pay for everything we can. We have some officers who really go out of their way to move their schedule around voluntarily to, or pay their own hotel, or, don't put in for mileage just to get certain trainings that they want too. So we don't frown on training, and we urge people to find other trainings out there so we can send them to them.
Yeah, it's not a criticism. I just think that, folks should really know what the cost of these trainings are. We should be doing them, but there is a cost, and we should be able to show that this is how much it costs and we're doing it. In the long run, considering what's going on in some locations, it would probably be pretty inexpensive for us to make sure that we're doing everything we can and we're committed.
But I mean, when you're looking at a week-long class at $850 to $1,000 an officer, and you want everybody trained, and then you got to pay for them to stay somewhere, you're up to a couple of grand a week per officer per training, and that's just to get 34 people done. That's 60-something thousand right there. We don't have $60,000 in our budget right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Chief, I reviewed the policy, and it's extremely comprehensive. However, a couple areas that weren't addressed, and you may have them in policies elsewhere, and I certainly hope that's the case. But if not, the first one I noticed is there's no mention of de-escalation or de-escalation training. Speak to that.
So de-escalation training as being referenced in a policy? Is that what you're looking for?
I'm looking to find out as
de-escalation training is done through mid-service.
No, I'm just looking at if it's not part of the use of force. Is there when someone's confronted and the situation is escalating to where use of force might have to be used? Has there been any training in the department to try to de-escalate or reduce the possibility of use of force becoming a reality.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the basic academy, number one, but then it's been part of in-service trainings over the last several years, which include.
It's not policy.
We don't have a policy specifically saying we de-escalate. No, it's part of your training.
Okay.
You know,
Only because it's being looked for out there, and you're probably aware of that. The other one is about the other one's about intervention, where an officer witnesses something that another officer is doing that could lead to issues, and what steps can he take to intervene.
Yeah, that's part of the general rules and regs that we have that specifically talks about officer conduct and what officers are expected to do, on top of not following orders that are, you know, unlawful and everything else. There's policies that address that.
Does any of the field training encompass these two items?
Yes. Yep. The regular academy does, and then we put our people through our own field training program before they on their own.
Plus the new mental health policy too, correct? On that training.
The CIT training that we're doing, is that you're referencing?
Yeah.
Maybe Mark could speak to.
Yeah, let me.
Right into this.
If I may jump in here, yeah, the de-escalation piece is really emphasized in the mental illness policy. That's not to say that that's not an important skill in any situation, but it's hard to really word it in policy form, because it's just something we do all the time in a lot of situations. But in terms of being emphasized in a training format and documented as an action, it's really emphasized on the mental illness level. But it's something officers do all the time. You know, it's just referenced in the mental illness policy, because I think it's highlighted more as, you know, when you're dealing with somebody in crisis who's behaving in a way where their behavior is escalating. But that's not to say it's limited to those situations.
I'm only asking because if the department is challenged, you can point and say, yes, we've got those items covered.
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
Mark, can you just identify yourself for the video here?
Oh, yes. Mark Williams, Deputy Chief of the Police Department.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mark, this is Rick. I just have a question on the actual policy. I have written policy and procedures 1.01. Is that the correct one for force?
Yes, and that's the first one in our series of many policies. So I think that goes to tell you how important that policy is recognized as being.
Hey, that's good to put out there too.
Yeah, and has anyone, to your knowledge, requested to see that policy?
To my knowledge, recently, I don't think we have, but it has been requested in records requests in the past, and certainly sometimes attorneys requested as well.
Our policies are public records. So.
Right.
Yeah, but if you're thinking of like the last few weeks since Minneapolis happened, I'm not aware of a specific request, and I emailed it to you all, you know, and at your request, Commissioners, in anticipation that you guys would want to see it.
Right. Well, I was just going through my old policy book, and I know it's old. I know it's really old, I guess. I don't know how old it is, but I just checked now. I don't find anything on mental illness in there. So I think one thing we certainly could do is review what we have. I don't know if what I have is up to date. This certainly wasn't up to date. So I think we need to ensure that we know some of this stuff is really up.
Sure.
The date on this one you sent was 5/1/2018.
So yeah, that's probably the last time it was either reviewed or modified. And use of force, I mean, definitely it gets reviewed annually. That's part of accreditation. But I can tell you it's statewide in terms of what the Municipal Police Training Committee does. you know, it's definitely reviewed annually, but there hasn't been too many substantial changes to it that I can immediately think of, you know, in recent history. I mean, I think Massachusetts policy has been ahead of the curve. You know, one thing we've heard a lot about in conversations around the country is banning chokeholds. And I've been telling everybody, I've been a police officer for 25 years and I've never been trained in a chokehold and even been recommended or suggested. I mean, it's just, that's foreign to us here. So I can certainly get you guys copies of the mental illness policy and really, Commissioner, if you're referencing a policy book and it's in book or binder format, I can tell you it's outdated because we don't do books anymore. It's all online. So I'm happy to, you know, I'm happy to make any policy available that you guys would like to see, or our entire policy manual, export it in digital format. I can do that as well.
Right. Well, I think that's something we should look into on the line here. Because this is coming, we know it's coming statewide, we know it's coming from the feds too. So I just think we want to be as up with the curve as we can be.
Butch, may I ask a question?
Go right ahead, Mayor.
When you're talking about mental illness, I presume you're talking about whether our police department or members of the police department, maybe not all, are trained in handling situations where people are having, you know, mental illness issues that are prompting them to do things that might engender a police call. Is that what you're talking about? Not necessarily the mental health of the police officer, or is it both?
I mean, I think we're talking about, I mean, for us, it's our interactions with the public and being trained and recognition and de-escalation with those that we come in contact with in our daily jobs for particular types of calls. That's the
Right.
resource base. That's what they're being trained in. That's what the CIT
Okay.
training
Well,
is.
that's all I was trying to get at. It wasn't a challenging question. I just wanted to understand what you folks were talking about. I do think that's very important. I do think it's important to emphasize it because from what I understand, and maybe I'm not fully understanding it well from certain demands, is that police are not trained to do that. And I think you need to make clear the message that you are, and that you do ultimately involve the appropriate mental health community, counselors, social workers, whoever. Because as it stands now, if I understand correctly, whenever a police officer gets a call, these people would like you, or the police department dispatcher gets a call, these people would like you to call, would like you to call social workers to handle a first responder's call, which is obviously not what needs to happen.
No, but Mark and I have been advocating with our department for years now. We've tried, and we've continuously tried, and the DC is constantly reaching out to the mental health community, the social services. He meets with them often, as well as Sergeant Westerling, who we have as part of our CIT leadership group, and we've tried to come work with us, get in our cars, drive with us. So we've actually out and tried that.
Yes, I know, and I full well understand that many of them are probably watching this play out, and I don't see them stepping forward and volunteering and saying that that's a really good idea. So
I talked to another group that social workers and you know, especially with my wife doing what she does, and I wanted to bring in the ability for Smith College graduates to do their clinical with the police department, and instead of doing it in a hospital setting or a CSO type of setting, come do it in a you know, a law enforcement setting and clinical that way.
okay. Well, thanks. I just was trying to get clear on what we were talking about.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, just a question for Mark, the deputy. Mark, is there anything else we need to do? The review you said happens annually anyways by the state, and and you do it in your in-service training. So is there anything else that we should be doing, or are we up to date and where we should be?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not here to say we're perfect, but it's, you know, watching these discussions happen across the country, it's just, you know, maybe I'm a little, you know, trapped in my own world here because this is where I've always worked, but just these issues they're covered here, you know, and I'm not in no means saying that what's happening in other parts of the country could never happen here. We're human, you know, it's a human game, but I just think in terms of systems we have in place, we've got a lot of this covered already, and I'm not sure what else we could do other than keep doing what we're doing and trying to emphasize, you know, positive culture, you know, within our department, which is and you know, adherence to the policies we have, and you know, giving positive praise and, you know, towards when we see things being done right, and on those rare occasions when, you know, somebody doesn't handle something in the way that we would expect, that doesn't meet our expectations, we deal with that in the ways that we need to.
Thank you. Any other questions for the chief or the deputy chief on the subject of the use of force policy? Okay, thank you very much. Next item on the list is the dispatch update. Chief A.
Well, I think we already covered that.
Okay, we're all set. We're down one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Down.
We'll make the end of the year on the budget.
We should. Yep. If not, the PD will cover it.
Right. The only thing I want to say on dispatching, it seems to me on some of these incidences throughout the country, for the dispatch is a cruiser, that they, I mean, I've been around dispatching for a long time, so I know from history. It seems to me that the dispatchers, in many cases, could get a lot more, and I'm not talking about a heart attack or something that's immediate. I'm talking about a call that's reasonably serious and you need to move there, you know, rather quickly. But a lot of times I had found from dispatchers that I work with is they receive a call and send a cruiser without getting enough detailed information to really inform the responders so that they can be adequately prepared for what they're going to go into. Not all the dispatchers get that kind of information, but a lot of times they can. And some of the information, if they just ask more questions, can be referred to other departments. They're not even police calls necessarily. So my question is, given what's going on, do you think dispatchers could have some more or different kind of or heightened training on you know, gaining more information before sending the first responder on the call in the first place?
I mean, I think our dispatchers, I mean, they get training mandatory every year, and I do a good job of, because we have, most of ours have been around a while, and I think that they do a pretty good job asking the right questions. I can tell you we've adjusted different things, especially with the COVID time now, where there's a lot of information that's being gathered because we're not sending officers in a lot of situations now. You know, we have a station person who's handling calling people back. Well, that starts with the dispatcher asking all the right questions to make sure we're giving it to the right person. So I think our folks do a pretty good job of that on the police side for sure. I mean, the fire, I can let the fire chief, you know, the fire side obviously, but we've got some pretty seasoned people that know, I think, what to ask, but also they know when, especially now when we focus on it, that they don't have to send somebody for everything. That it can be handled from within at times, and I think they've done a good job of that, especially with the COVID situation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions for the chief on dispatch? Okay, seeing none. Fire department updates, Chief Strand.
Hello.
Hello.
How is everyone? Somebody's back feeding some pretty bad It's hard to hear.
Yep.
So I'll just start off by saying District Chief Swain, after 39 years of continuous service to our call force, has announced his retirement, and he will be leaving us on Thursday. And so we wish him well, and he has dedicated a lifetime to the fire department. So our debt and gratitude goes to Chief Swain. My budget for this year, I wish it was as optimistic as Chief Haig's. For the first time since I've been chief, we have gone over in our budget. Our budget is projected to be about where I projected it to be over last year when we were preparing the budget. The three main items that caused us to go over this year. The first one is our overtime is right where I projected it to be. Most of that is contractual. The second item is vehicle maintenance. As you know, the fleet is getting old, and as the fleet gets old, so do the maintenance repair bills. And unfortunately, these are pieces of equipment we can't sideline or have the luxury to not fix right away. The last item that went over is our medical supplies. That is twofold. The first one is that we have a second ambulance that we outfitted. And more importantly, the money that would normally cover that, because there wasn't an increase in the spending cap last year for the ambulance revenue, and we spent $32,000 on a used ambulance when you only have a spending cap of 50. The equipment that needs to be used for day to day had to come out of the ordinary operating budget. So we have under the new mayor, we have changed that and increased the spending cap for next year. So we shouldn't have that problem going forward. But those are the three main reasons why my budget is gone over. As you know, our capital has been approved. There are 3 trucks that went through capital that we are in the process of putting pen to paper to design, and potentially after July 1 order it. There's been some discussion about budget concerns going forward and holding off on things. We will not be sorry about that. We will not be holding off on at least 2 of the trucks, because one truck is about 14 months from the day you order to the day you build it, or by the time it's built and delivered. The other one's over a year, and the lease agreement or the lease purchase that we'll have the payment out a full year from when we order it. So if we were to delay, you're actually delaying by a couple years. Captain Cooley's been reassigned back to the fire station working days, and it's been a godsend. It is not the deputy chief's position, but there's a lot of work that he has been able to do that a deputy chief would normally do. You know, the couple limitations that he has is like disciplinary action and investigations and things like that. But he is doing a remarkable job now that he's back from the EOC, and we're moving forward with that. That's what I have for the fire department update. Any questions?
Yeah, can you just maybe I just wanted to say it's kind of amazing when you talk about Mike Swain, because 39 years, because I can remember the day that he started at UMass for EMS, and I can't believe it was up that long ago, but congratulate him for us, please, for his many years of service to Greenfield. It's definitely greatly appreciated. I know that petition is probably going to find for staying.
You're going to have to get a better microphone.
Can't hear you, bud.
Right. Oh, that's because I moved my phone over. Sorry. Hour. Yeah, it's Mike Swain. I remember the day he started at UMass at the EMS department. Can't believe it was that long ago. He's got 39 years in Greenfield. That's amazing. He's been a great asset to Greenfield, a loyal employee, in his future. Any questions about the chief, his report?
I have a couple items. One, what's the plan for replacing Chief Swain?
It's under review. One of the problems that we have had was the way that our structure works within the department. It didn't really follow a command structure, if you will. So, for example, the district chief has always been in charge of the call force, but when he was on scene, he'd be with the permanent force. He didn't. Rank wasn't necessarily followed, and that has proven some complications. And I don't anticipate continuing that out down the road. So I'm looking at a restructuring method of the call force.
And the second question relates to Captain Cooley. He is working days, you're saying? 5 days a week?
Yeah, he's been working days, and it's been invaluable for not only the work that needs to be accomplished within the firehouse, but he is also working operationally too. And on occasion, when the second ambulance needs to be staffed, he is helping staff the second ambulance. In days like today, where they're probably 6 to 7 transports deep, he was able to assist with, I think, a couple of the transports.
Yeah, he had a good day first thing. Well, thank you. And please send our regards to him for all of his good help that he did in the EOC.
Yeah, he's been a tremendous help.
I'll try to work up the certificate. I'll work with you, Chief, on that to give him from the Public Safety Commission.
I know he would appreciate it.
Just a question on the promotional stuff. We're all set with that? Promotional.
I believe with the last conversation I had with HR, due to the format that we had some complications. I think they've been worked through. I think everybody has signed. Thank you very much, commissioners, for helping us out, getting that done quickly. I believe they're in the 10-day appeal process right now, which I believe will end on the 19th. And then the final letter from me to the mayor will be forthcoming with paperwork from civil service to promote.
Very good. Okay. Anybody else, any questions for the chief? I'll cover later in the COVID-19 piece, Chief, with you about some of that stuff.
No problem.
EMS, AMR update. Do you have anybody that will speak to that?
So they're not here, but I can tell you the conversations I've had with them. Last month was their busiest month that they've had up here in the previous 12 months or so. The significance about that is during the height of the COVID start, where people were at home, we saw the call volume drop about 30% from medical calls. And the reason for that is nobody wanted to go to the hospital, which I think could compound where we are right now in emergency medical field. We've seen an uptick in the last month, and including this month, where people are starting to call for the ambulance to go back to the hospital. Add that with COVID is still out there, and they're doing the best to manage it in the Bay State health system. And so it seems to, I don't have the data to support this, but it seems to that they're still doing some patient moving to make sure that Franklin Medical Center always has capacity.
Okay, thanks. I did send them an invite, though, for this meeting as well. Or at least I sent the bill at Town Hall. I'm sure sent it out to everybody, because everybody here got it. So I did include them, but I get it.
Commissioner, I'll follow up with that. I did not this time, but I will follow up and make sure that they're getting the invites. They're usually pretty good about sending a representative. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had them on the list to get the WebEx invite. But I sent it to Patrick Leonardo. Maybe I should have sent it to Patrick Pickering.
yeah.
I'll check with you.
I'd like to say, as someone who spent 4.5 hours in the emergency room a couple of weeks ago, that from start to finish, both the response from the fire department to come get me when I broke my shoulder, to Bay State's handling of how they separated people that came in for regular emergency calls from their COVID-19 sections of their emergency room was flawless. It could have taken a little bit shorter time, but you know, they have to handle a lot of things, and it was a busy evening. So just wanted to say our fire department in their ambulance response was great. And frankly, Bay State was humming on all engines as far as I could tell. I was to the extent that I could be, I was keenly aware of what they were doing. So just say, good job.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Anything else for the chief on MR update? Yay, other business, COVID-19 updates. Maybe both chiefs, but I just want to say, being in and out of the EOC over there at the John Zahn Center, and seeing the platform that you folks were using, and seeing how efficient and effective you were in dealing with the stuff that was coming and going constantly, and the fact that you supported other community agencies with supplies, masks and sanitizers and other stuff. I know folks over at the Housing Authority are greatly appreciated the stuff that you helped them out with over there, and I know you helped out a lot of other people. And I thought it was a real good platform. For years at UMass, we used a platform similar to that. We had all the agencies come in, big events, and so I've seen it work many, many times in the past, and I thought your operation was excellent. You had a great place to do it. For a change, you actually had a great place to do it in, not the old fire department. So great separation in rooms. You had your own rooms. Communications, it was like the downstairs in the fire department with all the concrete and all the, the noise and over talking to each other on the various radios and all that. I thought it was a real good setup, and maybe the chief would like to speak to their portion of it over there. And Alex sounded really good in the interviews on the radio that he did.
Good. So I'll give you a quick update where we're at right now, and then if Chief Haig wants to jump in as well, I'll turn it over to him. So where we are right now is we just went over the 200 mark for confirmed cases within the community, which is actually pretty remarkable because the pace that we started at was we were projecting to be double that by the end of April. And as I said back then, I am grateful to have been wrong on my projections, but that wasn't by accident. And so I think it's a couple things that the reason why the numbers kept low. The first one is that our health folks that we identified early and got them working early really did a remarkable job on source tracing and tracking folks and really isolating before that was really the term that was being used in the state. We were well ahead of that. The other one is, and then a lot of the credit really needs to go out to the citizens of the city that took the guidance from the governor and from our mayor, and I think they really adhered to it, and I think that worked to keep the numbers down. This was the first time that the EOC was open for nine weeks, which is pretty remarkable. It was a pleasure to serve, hand in hand with Chief Haig as a unified front and a unified command, as well with our health department. We're not done. And that's the message that I think needs to be to as we start opening up. I think everybody in the health field and everybody in emergency planning is bracing for the next wave. Whenever that will be, I don't know. But we're not done. And so we are still, as a command level, we still meet once a week with our health folks. And we are keeping in our planning and preparation mode. But Commissioner, you said it, and it was really the credit of the workers that were at the EOC from the top, the mayor on down. I was pretty proud of the efforts and the operations that went on. When you do a good job in emergency operations, a lot of the stuff that happens, the public never is going to hear about. And the public's never going to see the amount of work or appreciate the amount of work that went on out of that emergency operations center. And there was a tremendous amount of work done by everybody, and I couldn't be prouder of the operation. And I don't know if Chief Haig wants to jump in or echo that, or.
No, I think you said it all.
Short and sweet. Anybody else? Anything they'd like to add? Affections within your department, how are your people doing in regards to that? Anybody had any illnesses as a result of it? Zero. Please, same with. Well, that's because you protected yourselves well, right?
Yeah,
we had a few quarantines, but nothing crazy.
We did have some encounters, but we were pretty aggressive right from day one about making sure that our folks were protected, and knock on wood, it's served us well. So.
Okay. Well, thanks.
I do want to, excuse me, point out some of the changes that we are seeing with the virus, especially if you look to our neighbors to the north that have opened up, and they're actually seeing quite a startling increase in the amount of cases in young people. The severity has not been like elderly people, but the fact that we're starting to see them in kids, I think is alarming. And I know that there are quite a few people upset with certain things within our community, specifically like baseball and summer camps and whatnot. The trend that we're seeing in the country that they're starting to show the increase in the kids. I think the prudent thing is abundance of caution. So.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd like one question to Chief Strand, if I may, please.
Go right ahead.
Chief, on the 200 in the community folks that you said, how many, did that include all the ones in the nursing homes and the like?
It has. It's all cases.
So that was in possibly in the nursing homes, the majority of them were there. So the general population of the general community was in real good shape, other than the folks in the nursing home.
Yeah, we're seeing it shift from the nursing homes to the community, but the numbers are pretty stable. But we do see, between 1 and maybe 5 cases new in the community every day or two, but it's really been holding pretty steady.
Well, I mean, that's encouraging if, with those folks included in it.
Yep.
Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Next item on the list is vehicle speeding within the community. I got an email from John Griffin on Friday, June the 5th, regarding police vehicle speeding on Elm Street. He has sent me in the past emails about speeding in general in the Elm Street area. And I know I was at a meeting, I think it was at the parking and and it was also brought up at that meeting earlier in this year, or maybe last fall. Where speeding was brought up as an issue within the city. I realize the city's constructed in such a way that we have 2 east-west streets and several north-south streets that are both long, and people can get really moving. Elm Street is one of them. There really is no stop sign between one end and the other. So I know people fly in that street because I'm coming in and out of the jail all the time, and GHA, the housing authority as well. And it's a problem. People can get going. It's a problem on the other streets. We've had a lot of complaints, several complaints over the years, different areas, Country Club Road, Silver Street, High Street, with speeding. And I didn't know if it might be time for maybe the chief to consider offering a program for a traffic control division and a budget for it. I don't know that it can actually fund itself with the fines, but it certainly, I think it certainly should just be looked at. What's the cost? What's the benefit? How can we manage it? Can it be done?
We actually have somebody assigned to that. We've had one person assigned when we've been fully staffed, and it has shown to help because we could literally just send that person where the complaints are. And that was all it was at the time Officer Pernton, and that was all he did for his 4 days. And he rotated between days and 3 to 11 so we could get out there and be in those areas. So if we were back to full staffing, that might be one of those positions, but we also have obviously some other community outreach plans as well that we want to look at.
Right. I didn't know if maybe, some of those speed signs that we have that flash. I know we had one. I know it broke down. I know they're expensive.
We have one coming in the next fiscal year, and the DPW has, I believe, 2 of the smaller portable ones that can go on the poles coming in this upcoming budget.
Yeah. I can say that not a week goes by that we do not, today there were 2, that we do not get an email or 3 or 5 from citizens complaining about speeding on various streets. Now, speeding is in the eye of the beholder. I recognize that, but I understand when people are very concerned about it. But I think there's 2 issues here that I'm hearing that do at some point need to be addressed. One is everybody speeding, where different roads, you're right, Country Club Road. Today, the one that I got was Laurel Street, which was a new one. I haven't heard about speeding on Laurel Street. I mean, there is a significant hill there. You'd have to be going pretty darn fast to get up that hill. So if it's true, it's true. But I don't know that for a fact because I haven't sat there. But we do have those lights. The one thing coming that was funded through the capital budget. It is something I intend to talk to the chief about going forward as to how we can minimize the complaints, but also understand that not everybody views speeding in the same way. If the speed limit's 25 and you're going 30, That's depending on the street. That's not a unsafe speed, but it's faster than what the speed limit says rather. But the other one is police officers speeding, and I understand very well that there are many calls that you have to go on where you have to get there fast, and you don't necessarily want to use your sirens to get to those calls. I understand all these things. The public does not understand that. They don't distinguish between seeing a police car going very fast down Elm Street that might actually be answering a call and he's going or she is going fast for a reason versus I'm out going from point A to point B and I'm driving a little too fast. So I don't know how we get that message out there and how we clarify it, but I do think it's important.
Well, if they're not going lights and sirens to a call, then they shouldn't be speeding, and we'll address that across the board as a healthy reminder.
Okay.
But again, we also have the cruisers and the cameras which monitor speed as well. So we will address that complaint with everybody across the board to remind them.
The only time I think you would be speeding without because of the lawsuits many years ago about responding to calls without all your emergency lights and siren going, and first responders getting into accidents, and the cases revolved around, well, was it an emergency or was it not? If it was an emergency, why didn't you have all your lights? And we get sued for that, but there is a few exceptions, and one of them is hold-up alarms. I mean, you want to try to move there as quickly as you can, but you don't want to alert them that you're coming. And there might be others, but very few exceptions. And even in those cases, if you don't have your lights and siren on, you want to be really careful. But I know we've brought it up to the chief before, and it's just a continuing briefing message, I think, in the mornings or at the beginning of shifts, that folks are complaining to both us and the mayor about speed. And I did respond to John and tell him that I was going to put it on tonight's agenda and that we would bring it up and discuss it. And so I've made him aware of that we were doing that. Anybody else any more questions on the speed issue? Okay, thank you. The last issue, which I'd like to just bring up, is the Public Safety Commission has had a request for public documents, documents from 2010 to May of 2020 for complaints against police. I could find and only remember one that the commission dealt with in 2016, the Lamb case, and I have it. If any of the commissioners or the police chief, I spoke to the deputy, can recall any others we dealt with, but I can't remember any that the commission has dealt with. And I have till the 22nd to respond, and I'll respond to the mayor, and she can, I think that's the way it came in anyways, and then she can forward the information to the requester, or the city clerk can. Maybe that's how it's done.
Yeah, that is.
But
Goes to Kathy first.
Oh, goes to Kathy. Okay, I'll give it to her. But that's the only case I can recall that we were involved in since 2010. Unless Gary can think of any. He was chair before I, but I don't see any. So I'll give it a day or two.
Was there one involving a taser?
Yes, now that you recall that, yes, that was Rick, that was the tea guy. That was the guy that owned the tea company down in Whately, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Really?
Yeah, that was I don't have that. I think Gary might have been the chair at that time. I'll have Mark look that one up for me, though.
I think we should look that one up.
That was an arrest out at the Rotary with the taser.
That's correct.
Butch, are you looking for ones that we had to have like a technical hearing to?
Yeah, they came before us, that we actually dealt with. I mean, our policies, we receive them, we turn them over to the chief for IA investigations. The chief determines whether he can do them within house. If not, he refers them to the district attorney's office, state police, crime unit. They investigate them. If we do it in-house and the commission determines we're not satisfied with the results, then we tend to take it further. We have not had that happen any time in the past that I can remember. They always do a good job at running all the information down, and if there's a violation, they deal with it. But Chief Egg, I'm not sure that were you the chief at the time that case with the tasing incident out at I don't think so either.
No.
I think Chief Gilbo was the chief during that one, but that had to be after 2010, I think. I'll check. But that's the only other one. Thanks for reminding me, Rick. That's another one I can think
It
of.
was after 2010.
Yeah. Okay.
We had one with a traffic stop that was a drug dealer, and that he complained, and we knew about a letter, but my understanding was a couple of years ago, and it was turned over to Deputy Chief Williams, and it was handled from there. I don't know if that's one that you wanted to consider or not.
Yeah, I'll ask the deputy.
We have to do the same. We're getting the same public record request. So if it ends up if it comes out of ours, oh well. If it comes out of yours, they'll get them both. So.
Very well. They want the specific information from the Public Safety Commission, how we sort of dealt with it. So, but I'll check with the deputy on that. Okay. And so the next item on the list is open floor. If anybody from the public would like to speak to any issue, I'm allowing 15 minutes per topic. Folks are more than willing to jump in and ask us whatever we spoke about during the meeting. Doesn't appear to be anybody.
Hey, Butch.
Yes, go ahead.
I forgot to mention, just want to remind the commission that there is, the charter review is going on now. And the changes that you guys have talked about in the past, you may want to put forward.
Yeah, I can speak to that. The Charter Review Commission is taking things section by section, but that doesn't mean that if you have specific thoughts on how the charter might be changed, that you shouldn't send them in now. Chairperson of the Charter Commission is David Singer. Kathy out of the town, Kathy of the town clerk is pretty much handling all emails from people that, regardless of whether they're internal people such as yourselves or people from the public who have bright ideas about how the charter ought to be changed. So just feel free to send whatever items you want to Kathy Scott, and she'll CC me, or she'll eventually get them to me too as well. But David Singer is the chair. You can also copy him if you have his email address.
Okay. The only one I can remember that we put in previously, and I'm sure it wasn't acted upon, was the addition of ambulance or EMS services under the Public Safety Commission charter. It says police and fire, but we've always routinely dealt and as recommended to the two previous mayors, issues surrounding and dealing with the contracts for the various ambulance services that have been in Greenfield. So I know we wanted that added. I can't think of anything else that we wanted added. Maybe
You want an emergency management too, Butch.
Right, right, EMS, right.
Yes. Emergency
EMS.
not EMS.
EMS, emergency management.
Right. EMD, right?
Yes, sir.
So there's no need for an executive session, correct? The next meeting we have scheduled for July 22nd at 4 p.m. on WebEx, provided it's available at that hour, which I will check and find out. If not, I will let everyone know. And so the item 50 is adjournment. We have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I just say something before you all go away? Thank you very much for letting me join in. It's the first opportunity I've had. It was very informative, and I greatly appreciate your having me and having me be able to speak to you. So thank you.